Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. Evan Camico alongside our Hogs Hoop insider, Kevin McPherson. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Evan. Ready to talk hoops, man.
All right, let's jump right into it. We talked a little bit about it already over the last few weeks, but this Arkansas team is finally starting to take shape. What do you see on this team in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, they're on a break right now. Those limited practices, but we get some information. What I thought was interesting, they really, for the first time in Musman entering year 5, really slow played the photos from practice, some of the video stuff. And then as they were winding things down, they started ramping things up with the social media. So they started that a week ago, and then this past week, just the last few days, every day, Eric Musman's dropping clips of individual players, and we've seen 4 so far. We're going to probably have more to talk about in a week from now, but let's get into the 4 that we saw. The first one I remember seeing is Jeremiah Davenport, the 6'6". I'm going to call him a 3-4 combo. I think he's more wing than 4. But he can rebound a little bit. He can help Arkansas in small ball lineups at the 4. But I think when we really look at his value, we knew it was probably going to be 3-point shooting. Over 200 made threes in 4 seasons at Cincinnati before transferring to Arkansas. But the clip that came out, they're not giving us a lot, but they give us just enough. And what I really liked about the 2 shots he made were they were 3-point shots off catch and shoot, but 2 or 3 things stand out. One is his range. He was knocking these down from NBA range on this clip. And that's something that not a lot of guys are able to do consistently. And so when you're making 200 threes in your career, you're getting some volume. He's a 35% career 3-point shooter. That's good. But you always look at a guy's range, especially off catch and shoot, because that's what can really put defenses in trouble. Guys have a quick trigger and are effective. This is what Arkansas was sorely missing last year. And I'll go back 2 years ago. Not a very good 3-point shooting team in the last 2 seasons. Good basketball teams that advance in the NCAA tournament. We know an Elite 8 followed by a Sweet 16 the last 2 years, but not necessarily a good 3-point shooting team. So everything became harder for this team on offense. But now this new team, you're asking what we're looking at, just a couple of clips. That doesn't mean Jeremiah Davenport's going to hit every shot like he does in highlights that Eric Musman puts out. But I like the fact that it's a quick release off catch and shoot. I like his range. And what I notice is he's catching these off the skip passes. So it's not just the ball moving next guy in the rotation around the horn. You've got to have good court awareness as a passer. You want your offensive players to recognize shooters and really put the defense at a disadvantage. So anytime you have a skip pass going from one side of the court to the other, it makes a catch and shoot guy even more dangerous because he's got more space. It's a lot harder for defenders to recover and close out, and you kind of got guys out of position. So I noticed that. Again, these are 2 plays, but we got to talk about some. It's all we got on Jeremiah Davenport.
Mm-hmm.
Then right after that, Joseph Pinion, who, by the way, was a freshman last year, 6'5" wing out of Russellville right here in Arkansas. But he was Arkansas's best 3-point shooter by percentage last year. It wasn't a huge sample size, although he did come off the bench and had double-digit scoring games and knocked down some threes, really changed Arkansas's dynamic on offense. In 2 SEC games, Arkansas might have lost. And had they lost those games to Ole Miss and Missouri, we're not talking about a Sweet 16. We're probably talking about maybe an NIT run. So Joseph Pinion, even though he wasn't in the top rotation consistently, a big part of what helped Arkansas last year and at times. And then you see in this clip that came out this week, what he does. I mean, the first part of the clip, the ball moves. It's another skip pass. A guard penetrates on one wing, kicks out to him on the other, setting up out high between the left wing and the top of the key, and he strokes a 3. That doesn't surprise us at all. But he also had what Musman called a wolf cut, where he went backdoor, ran baseline, caught a pass at the dunker spot, and it's a good name for it because Joseph went up and dunked the ball. Now, look, I've covered this guy going back to his junior high days. He's always been an underrated athlete. Everybody thinks of him as a shooter, but he's got other skills. He's a good passer, but he's an athletic guy. And, that dunk was nice to see. Not surprising at all. And then we moved through the week. Layden Blocker, the true freshman from Little Rock, one of Arkansas's 2 prized recruits coming into this season out of the high school ranks, a national top 30 guy. But he does just a little bit of everything on the basketball court. He's a fearless rebounder and rim attacker for a guy that's in the 6'2", 6'3" range. He does a little. He's got a little bit of dog in him at both ends of the floor. You hear that thrown around. He's one of those guys. But when you looked at the clips that Musman put out, first play he takes a guy left off the dribble, goes hard to the basket. and does wraps around a nice reverse finish, a tough shot he made off a hard drive. Then he defends at the rim. He challenges the guy, comes out of his area using his quickness and his athleticism to contest at the rim at 6'2", blocks a shot, and then he wraps things up with a little three splash off the bounce, a two-man game. Another area where I've seen him excel at times, working that two-man game and being really quick into what he's getting into, and then finishing, executing the play. So Layden Blocker shows you a lot of why Arkansas really prized him coming out of high school. And I think Arkansas coaches have probably seen more from him maybe this soon, this early than they expected. And then we wrap things up just today. Musselman dropped some Bay Fall. Everybody was worried about Bay Fall. He's going to be available this year. He's 6'10". Well, so what's available? 6'10", athletic, long, end-to-end motor. And he's a guy that gets out of his area to make plays. And that's why he's such an effective rim protector on defense, and then a rim runner and a lob threat on offense. And those were the two plays we saw Musselman put out: a catch off the lob and finish at the rim, and then a block shot. And so, we're starting to get little glimpses with some of this video coming out. And I think the dynamic of this team is so different than last year. We can talk about three-point shooting, Arkansas. We've talked about it in recent segments, Evan. But when I look at last year's team with so much NBA talent and one and done types and coming, transitioning, they were going to spend 1 year at Arkansas. So you had all that. This group, to me, we talk about all the experience. I've said it before, 13 scholarship players, there's 35 years of D1 experience. But I think there's different nuances, and we're starting to see some of it come out in the film. But I think the talent is what I don't want people to sleep on. I don't want them to think, well, this team's not loaded with one and done first round projected guys. So what? You might have that in Trevor in Brazil, by the way. You may not have as many, but I think there's more than one guy with NBA chops in this group. But I think there's plenty of talent. I just think it's going to be a more skill wise, a more diverse group. That's why it's fun when these highlights come out, because we get our first taste of it. If we can't be in the gym with them, let's take a look at them through some of this social media stuff. It took a while to get some of it, but now it's coming out and it's really fun to see.
And yeah, you've talked over the last couple of weeks about the differences in the team this year and last year. Obviously, this year, a lot out of the portal, as well as a couple of new recruits for Moss. So it should be interesting to see the dynamic and really how they all fit together. But let's look at that more of that recruiting side and guys who are coming in the class of 2024 and 2025. You were able to talk to a few of them over the last few days. What have they told you and what have you heard?
Well, there's just a lot there. I had an article on hogville.net about a recruit that has, I got with him midweek. He's telling me, I'm coming to visit Arkansas. I'm taking an official visit. It's a guy the staff has been on for over a year. He got his Arkansas offer in December. He was going to take an unofficial visit back in October. That didn't work out. But almost a year later, on September 16th, that's a Saturday, the football Hogs will be hosting Brigham Young that day. But we're going to say his name, Isaiah Elohim, Elohim, a 6'5" wing. This is a guy before he was hurt. He got hurt last year and missed about 6 months dealing with a knee injury. But Arkansas staff stayed consistent. They stayed true to him. They've been recruiting him hard. But he was a top 5 rated 5-star. Plays at Sierra Canyon. That's a one of the top independent basketball schools. We all know that. But a guy that's put up good numbers there last year in his second season there. But Isaiah is, still top 25 ranked, even though he missed all that time. Sometimes you slip and fall off the radar a bit, but ranked number 22 by 247 Sports. He's in a good position to be competing for a spot on McDonald's All-American roster. But this class of 2024 player is a strong, sturdy slasher, and he's got all kinds of craft, Evan, in his slash game. He can get to a pull-up. He can get all the way to the rim, and he sizes dudes up. You see this on defenders. You see it when he puts the ball on deck. He starts sizing guys up and going, okay, I'm coming at you like a train. I've got skill to finish. What are you going to do about it? And I like players that attack like that because there's a lot of confidence, but you got to be able to back it up with some skill and craft. He's got all that. He's got a nice pull-up, especially off the spot-up three. He's adding more stuff to it, but you always like a guy who's body ready for the next level at the high major level. This guy's sturdy and strong. So I like Isaiah Elohim. But again, September 16th, that's a Saturday, his official visit. He's only got one other official visit set up right now. After Arkansas, a couple of weeks later, is going to go to Providence. But he's had offers from Kentucky, Kansas. I mean, you go down a list of schools, it's a lot of high majors, some blue bloods in there. But this is one of the top players in the country. Speaking of class of 2024, Rakeese Passmore, this is the guy that got an Arkansas offer just a month or so ago, another 6'5" athletic wing, Combine Academy out of North Carolina. He's got several official visits set up, but he's got one planned for Arkansas on October 6th. So that's also a weekend when Arkansas, the football Hogs will be on the road, by the way. They'll be playing a road game at Ole Miss, but that's when Marquise Passmore's coming in. So let's start. What are the similarities here? We're talking about two big wings, two big shooting guards. And the third guy that Arkansas fans are very well aware of, national top 10 five-star Keonor Boateng, who I did interview today. You're right about that. I'd recently written an article post-visit when he took his Arkansas official visit just a couple of weeks ago, but got him in the gym today and got another interview, and he really raved about the visit, said it was great. You hear that a lot, but he went into some details about the fact that the coaches really talked about how the system works for getting guys to the next level, areas in his game he can improve, all the stuff they break down and really give them an advanced NBA look and future. Because you're looking at a lot of these guys, especially five stars, are thinking one and done. So it comes and goes. So you got to sell them on all the good stuff. But Boateng, we talked about that. He's really only told me today, he mentioned that he does have an upcoming visit to Missouri. We knew that was coming. It's a dead period right now, August 6th to the 20th. So that'll end soon. So look for late August for that visit. But he didn't commit to any other spots. Now I got Arkansas and Missouri in his final 8. So there's other schools in there that he might visit. Indiana, Georgia Tech, LSU, Auburn, Ohio State, Virginia Tech. So those are the other schools. We'll see if any of those get a visit. But Boateng is impressive, man. This guy's athletic. He's added a lot of skill, even the 3-point line. 6'5" out of Little Rock Central. So the 3 names we just talked about, these are priority guys. Boateng got the first official visit. We talked about Elohim being next. But these are priority recruits, and they're all in that same size. What do we know about Eric Musselman? He loves that 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", versatile defender, can do multiple things and play multiple spots. You talk about positionless basketball. I don't know if there's such a thing for most players, but when you can get guys in that size range that can defend multiple positions and then, slot in at the 2, the 3, and maybe help with the 1 some on offense, that's great. But the other thing is, those are the players, Arkansas's had all kinds of really good players historically. Under Musselman, you look at guys like Isaiah Joe, Mason, just go down the list, Jalen Tate, big guards, Moses Moody, Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr. You're in that 6'4" to 6'6" range. And these guys have been stars at Arkansas. They're the guys that step up and thrive in the program. So it's interesting that those kind of guys are focal points right now, because I really think Arkansas is probably looking at two high school signees again, maybe 3 if they can get there, similar to last season's recruiting class, whereas the year before, we know they brought in 6 freshmen, true freshmen, including 3 that ended up being one and dones and drafted in the last draft.
And it's funny that you bring up Moses Moody and Isaiah Joe, and a perfect segue into the next part where we're going to talk about some of the pro Hogs. Moody was in Little Rock a couple of weeks ago hosting a fall camp, or summer camp, excuse me, and he had Klay Thompson out here. And Isaiah Joe is here this weekend in Little Rock. I know you were there. What do you see about that? How did that go?
Man, it's great. These pro Hogs giving back to the home state. This is what makes, you talk about putting up a fence. There are no better spokesmen than the guys that came through the program up there and thrived, and then they come back to share, to give back. But they also have these little fireside chats. They're talking to these young players. These camps, not only did Isaiah Joe come and give back, he had a camp all day on Saturday. This is open to the public, all age groups, split it up to 2 sessions throughout the day. It was a lot of fun being there. Today he had an elite camp, and we're talking about the best players in the state of Arkansas. I've been covering hoops here for a long time. There have been other events and times where you're getting the best of the best on the court together, but it's been a while. It has been a minute, as they say. But today, Keonor Boateng, we just talked about him, 5-star. Terrion Burgess, who I also interviewed this week in class of 2025, 6'9" combo forward out of Benton, national top 30, number 27 according to 247 Sports in that class of 2025. Jacob Lanier, class of 2026, picked up an Arkansas offer just a few weeks ago. Played up on Nike EYBL 17U, or the Under Armour, 17U, played on Nike EYBL 15U in the spring, but moved up two levels to go 17U to finish up the summer on one of the major circuits. But out of Maumelle, 6'6" combo guard. So just talking to these guys, interviewing these guys, and about the in-state opportunities and the in-state experience at an elite camp today. I mean, another guy that didn't sign with Arkansas, Dallas Thomas out of Little Rock Parkview, a 6'8" wing, just committed, committed to Clemson. He'll sign in the early period. But you had a lot of high major and Division One players in the gym today here in Little Rock with Isaiah Joe running that. He partnered up with Pro Hog Daryl Macon. Hog fans know who that is. First team All SEC just a few years ago and helped Arkansas really get the program turned around and start going back to the NCAA tournament. He was part of back-to-back NCAA tournaments for the Hogs in his junior and senior season after coming from JUCO, but another local product. And so those guys, Isaiah Joe and Daryl Macon, were really not only demonstrating and leading drill work and teaching, but they're also talking to players more than just about the basketball part of it, but the other parts that go into helping yourself advance, whether it's to the college level and then maybe on to the pro level. So these things are always great when you see players come back home and give back. You mentioned Moses Moody. That same weekend, Bobby Portis, by the way, Evan, was in town doing his deal. And we know Portis now is very busy with Team USA. Want to talk a little bit about that. But before we get there, I just wrapping up these camps, putting eyes on some of these players, man. You see why they're rated so highly. But I think Arkansas basketball is no longer sort of an under the radar story nationally. More and more coaches I talk to, Division I coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, pro level guys. I have NBA scouts calling me, asking me about players here in Arkansas. So the word's gotten around. And so I think getting to be in one spot, now not everybody was there, but a vast majority of the top players in the state were there today. And to get to see that all of them in one place is a big deal. So kudos to Isaiah Joe and Daryl Macon for making that happen here in Central Arkansas.
Yeah, and it's a testament to a program when you're able to bring guys from in the state, keep them in state, whether they came from the Little Rock area or up here in Northwest Arkansas, and have them go through that University of Arkansas basketball program, send them to the big leagues, the NBA, and then for them, again, to come back and give back. Because, a big thing that Joe was saying the other day was he loves coming back, he loves giving back, because this is something that he didn't have once upon a time and wants to be that person for a lot of these young athletes. And Moses Moody had the same message a couple of weeks ago. So it's just an awesome thing and a testament to the University of Arkansas to be able to get the guys to the next level while still keeping them at home. And let's talk about Bobby Portis, too, out in the Philippines right now with Team USA. How's that going?
Well, they haven't, the FIBA World Cup starts later this month, but they always ramp up with some of these showcase games. So they started in Las Vegas earlier in the week. Bobby's playing off the bench. He's the elder statesman on the team. It's a very young Team USA group. But his first game, very efficient game, 4-6 from the field, 11 points, 3 rebounds. He only played 10 minutes, a steal, a block, an assist. And then this last game, now they played in Spain yesterday against Slovenia, and they win by 30. But again, off the bench, played about 10 minutes, but 8 points. Again, another 4 of 6 games shooting from the field. He's just an energy guy. There's just a different level. The game goes up another level, and it inspires teammates when he comes into the game. And so, 5 rebounds yesterday, a steal, but he put, when you look at his per minute production so far, he's playing the fewest minutes of anybody. I don't know why that's part of their strategy. They haven't had any problems with anybody yet. They play Spain tonight. That might pick things up because that's typically one of the stronger international teams. So I look forward to watching that. But Bobby Portis doing Bobby Portis things when he gets in, what Bucks fans loved, what Razorback fans loved. And look, this always, for a guy like him, who I think's been the best 6 man, the best reserve in the NBA spanning the last 3 years. He doesn't have any hardware for it, but he should. This guy is not he's not somebody that's going to be considered an all-star, but there is not much separation from him and some of the guys that play in that all-star game. This is one of the better players in the NBA, and I'm glad Team USA, Steve Kerr, and that group got Bobby Portis to be part of this. And this is something that he'll always remember. Of course, they want to win. The memories are better if you're winning it. So a 2-0 start and showcase play. They've got a few more of those games before they do the real thing in the FIBA World Cup that begins later this month.
And it's a fun and, like you said, young USA roster. Tyrese Halliburton's on that roster, Anthony Edwards, Austin Reeves from the Lakers. So a lot of new faces for USA basketball, really the start of that next generation team that's going to come in the Olympics next year in France. Anyway, Kevin, before we go, anything else that I missed?
You didn't miss anything, but I did. Daryl Macon, who we just talked about, is going to be recognized on Tuesday here in Little Rock. He's going to get a key to the city. It's Daryl Macon Day, August 15th, then and forevermore. And here's a guy that, he talked about it. Joe Johnson, Bobby Portis, Moses Moody, not that long ago. Central Arkansas guys, Little Rock guys, had the same recognition. It took him a little longer, but it's well deserved. Daryl, by the way, told me he's going to play professionally in China. That's coming up next. There's a guy that's played a little bit in the NBA. He's been on a couple of two-way contracts after being undrafted a few years ago. I mentioned his success at Arkansas, but he's played in Turkey, Greece, Russia last year. With all that's going on, he played professionally in Russia last year, and now it's China. So this is a guy that's, to me, it's well deserved. And I love Daryl Macon. He's one of the guys that's very frank and sometimes brutally frank when you interview him. But that's always fun because he's an interesting guy to talk to. But I always wish him success. Proud that he's going to have his big day coming up on Tuesday here in, I call it the 501 in Little Rock.
Well, that is going to be an awesome day for Macon. Kevin, as always, a pleasure doing these with you. That does it for your Hog Hoops report. More Pig Trail after the break.